You're tuning into a deep dive, and today we're tackling something that recently zipped through the House of Representatives. H.R. 26, the Protecting American Energy Production Act.
That's right.
Now, that title, it sounds pretty straightforward, but what does it actually mean for how energy is made in the U.S.?
Good question.
We've got the official bill text right here, and, well, our mission is to cut through the jargon,
Yeah.
figure out what this bill does, especially when it comes to a specific way of getting energy called hydraulic fracturing.
Mm-hmm.
Why should you care? Well, as you guys are thinking about the future, this kind of legislation shapes the world you're stepping into.
Exactly. We're looking at a bill that aims to define who gets to decide on the future of a key energy production method. So the central question we're really drilling down on is, what exactly does H.R. 26 do concerning hydraulic fracturing?
Okay, so the first thing that jumps out is the name itself, Protecting American Energy Production Act. It's like the bill is announcing its main purpose right off the bat, supporting energy production here at home.
Pretty clear signal, yeah.
But let's get into the nitty-gritty. What's the core action this bill proposes?
Okay, if you look at Section 2, under that same heading, Protecting American Energy Production, the crucial part is subsection B. It clearly states that the president can't declare a moratorium. Think of that as like a temporary halt or ban.
Double pause.
Exactly. A pause on using hydraulic fracturing for oil and natural gas unless Congress passes a law specifically allowing it.
So wait a minute. Let's make sure this sinks in. The president can't just say, okay, we're hitting pause on fracking nationwide, unless Congress gives the thumbs up.
That's the rule this bill lays out.
That's a big deal, right?
Right.
It feels like it shifts some serious power from the executive branch, the president, to Congress when it comes to this specific energy method.
It absolutely does. It changes the dynamic.
What are the implications of that kind of shift?
Well, what's fascinating here is thinking about potential scenarios. Imagine a future where a president might see an urgent environmental reason or maybe some other reason to stop fracking quickly. This bill would mean they couldn't do that unilaterally, not at the federal level anyway. They'd have to go to Congress, convince them to pass a specific law.
And that could take time. Or not happen at all.
Exactly. It could lead to delays or even prevent a moratorium altogether, depending entirely on the political climate in Congress at that moment.
That really makes you think. Now, there's also this part in subsection A called Sense of Congress. It basically says that Congress believes states should be the primary rule makers when it comes to fracking on their own land and private land.
It's a statement of opinion, essentially.
This feels like another piece of the puzzle about who gets to call the shots on energy. Why highlight the states like that?
Well, this sense of Congress part, while it isn't legally binding like the moratorium rule,
So it's not a hard law.
not in the same way. It signals a strong opinion, though. It reflects that ongoing debate about federalism, like, how much power the national government should have versus the individual states.
Ah, okay. Federal versus state power.
Right. Congress is essentially saying, we think states are best positioned to regulate fracking within their borders. You already see different states with very different fracking rules, and this just kind of reinforces that idea.
So it could mean, if this becomes law, you might see even more variation in how fracking is handled across the country.
That's a definite possibility, yeah. It leans into state control for state and private lands.
Okay, this whole conversation hinges on hydraulic fracturing. For anyone who's maybe not a science whiz, or even if you are, but get a bit lost in the details, what exactly is fracking, in simple terms?
Sure. Think of it like this. Deep underground, sometimes miles down, there's oil and natural gas trapped inside layers of rock, like shale.
Okay, trapped energy.
Exactly. Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, is a technology used to get those resources out. It involves pumping a mixture, mostly water, plus sand, and some specific chemicals down a well at really, really high pressure.
Got it.
And that pressure creates tiny cracks, or fractures, in the rock formation. The sand helps prop those cracks open.
Ah, so the gas can get out.
Precisely. It allows the trapped oil and gas to flow more freely up the well so it can be collected at the surface. It's a technology that has really significantly boosted oil and gas production, especially here in the U.S. over the last decade or so.
Yeah, creating cracks
Right.
to release the energy. Makes sense. So bring this back to you listening. Why should you, maybe a high school student, care about a bill about fracking regulations?
It connects to a lot, actually.
Yeah, I mean, energy is just fundamental to our lives. So it affects everything from the cost of well, pretty much everything we buy or do,
Transportation, heating, electricity.
to the big questions about our environment and climate change, this bill is directly about how a really significant method of energy production is governed.
And it's a practical example of government in action.
Totally. It shows you how different branches of our government, the president, Congress, interact, and sometimes have different views on really important issues. And that state versus federal control thing, that's a theme you see over and over in lots of policy areas, not just energy.
Absolutely. And as you think about the future, your future energy policy is going to be a huge topic. There's no escaping it. This bill, H.R. 26, if it eventually becomes law.
And remember, it's only passed the House so far.
Right, good point. It still needs to go through the Senate and be signed by the president. But if it becomes law, it could have really long-lasting effects on how much oil and gas we produce domestically, what environmental regulations look like state by state, and even, as we discussed, the balance of power in Washington, D.C.
So the big takeaway here seems to be that this Protecting American Energy Production Act aims to limit the president's power to independently stop fracking nationwide.
That's the headline, yeah.
Only a specific act of Congress could bring about that kind of nationwide ban under this bill.
That's the core mechanism. It's a significant shift, potentially, in how decisions about this specific energy technology could be made at the federal level.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to chew on. Considering the ongoing debates we all hear about energy needs versus environmental protection, what are some potential long-term consequences of this bill, regardless of your personal stance on fracking itself?
Good question to ponder.
Yeah, what kind of questions does this raise for you about how our country will manage its energy resources and protect the environment in the years ahead? It's definitely something to think about as you navigate the future.
Indeed. Thanks for diving deep with us on this one.